I gasped at his touch, but I didn't pull away. My name is Amelia, and this is the story I never thought I would tell, the story that began as a flicker of something forbidden and became the fire that consumed me. Even now, as I speak these words, my heart races the same way it did that night, the night when everything I believed about love, loyalty, and trust was tested. I had been married for almost 10 years to Daniel. On the surface, we looked perfect. Smiling photos on vacations, holding hands at family gatherings, even the occasional stolen kiss when friends were watching. But behind closed doors, things were not so simple. Daniel was good, kind, and hardworking, but life had hardened him. Our conversations grew shorter, our laughter rare. He often worked late, and when he was home, he was tired. I told myself this was normal, that all marriages settle into comfort, but in my heart, I missed the spark, the feeling of being seen, wanted, and alive. That's when Ethan entered my life. He was Daniel's longtime friend, someone I had known for years but never looked at twice, until that evening when Daniel asked me to meet Ethan on his behalf. Daniel had been caught up at work, and Ethan had come into town unexpectedly. "Just meet him for coffee, Amelia," Daniel said casually. "Tell him I'll see him tomorrow." I didn't think much of it. I put on a simple dress, something casual, nothing meant to impress. But when I walked into the cafe and saw Ethan waiting at the corner table, my breath caught for reasons I didn't understand. He looked different from the man I remembered. A little older, yes, but sharper, more confident. His smile was warm, and when he stood to hug me, there was an ease about him, as though he carried no burdens, unlike the heaviness that seemed to follow Daniel these days. We talked for an hour, maybe 2, laughing over stories, filling in the gaps of years gone by. There was no intention, no hidden meaning, yet I felt something shift inside me. His eyes lingered just a moment too long on mine, and when I looked away, my heart betrayed me with a nervous flutter. Over the next weeks, Ethan found reasons to visit again. Sometimes it was business, sometimes just passing through. Daniel welcomed him like family, never suspecting the quiet storm building beneath the surface. Ethan and I exchanged glances across dinner tables, subtle smiles that no one noticed but me. I told myself it was harmless, that I was imagining things, but the truth was, I felt alive again in ways I hadn't for years. One evening, Daniel was called away suddenly for work. Ethan had stopped by to drop something off, and before I knew it, we were sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, talking like we had 100 times before. The night grew darker, the air thicker with unspoken words. I don't even remember how it happened, just the brush of his hand against mine as he reached for his glass. I gasped at his touch, every nerve in my body waking at once. I should have pulled away. I should have remembered my vows, my husband, everything I stood for. But I didn't. My hand stayed where it was, trembling, craving more. Ethan's eyes searched mine, silently asking, silently daring. And when his fingers intertwined with mine, the room seemed to disappear. My heart pounded, my breath caught, and in that moment, I wasn't a wife, I wasn't Amelia the loyal, I was just a woman who wanted to feel alive. The first kiss was hesitant, stolen, almost trembling. But when his lips pressed against mine, all the walls I had built over years of restraint crumbled. I melted into him, giving into the hunger I had buried for so long. His hands held me, as though I was fragile and precious, yet his touch burned with an intensity that made me shiver. That night changed everything. We didn't go further than stolen kisses, than whispered confessions of desire, but the line had already been crossed. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt his hands again, remembered the way my body had betrayed me by leaning into his. I told myself it was a mistake, that it could never happen again. But life, temptation, and desire don't follow rules. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Ethan and I found excuses, errands, quick visits, casual encounters that always carried a dangerous undercurrent. The first time I let him hold me fully in his arms, I cried afterward, torn between guilt and longing. But he whispered, "You deserve to feel wanted, Amelia," and those words broke me in ways I couldn't explain. I started to live 2 lives. In one, I was Daniel's wife, smiling, cooking dinners, pretending nothing had changed. In the other, I was a woman rediscovering herself in stolen hours, in whispered phone calls, in embraces that left my skin tingling. The lies became easier with time, but the guilt never truly faded. Sometimes I would watch Daniel sleeping, his face peaceful, and I would ache with regret. But when Ethan touched me again, all of that regret turned into fire. It wasn't just physical. That's what made it so dangerous. Ethan listened in ways Daniel no longer did. He noticed the little things, when I changed my hair, when I seemed tired, when I needed comfort. He made me laugh, he made me feel seen. And yet, every time I let myself sink deeper into him, I knew I was building a house of cards destined to collapse. The night it all came crashing down was ordinary in every way. Daniel came home early from work, earlier than expected. Ethan and I had been sitting too close, laughing too easily. The look on Daniel's face when he opened the door is something I'll never forget. Confusion first, then suspicion, then the dawning horror of realization. He didn't yell, didn't rage. He simply stood there, staring, his silence louder than any scream could have been. I tried to speak, to explain, but what explanation could there be? Ethan left quietly, guilt etched on his face, and I was left with Daniel's broken eyes. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Daniel didn't throw me out, didn't demand divorce, but the distance between us became an ocean. I tried to mend things, to prove my love, but how do you fix something after trust has been shattered? Ethan disappeared from our lives, and though I knew it was right, his absence felt like another kind of loss. Now, years later, I still carry the weight of those choices. Daniel and I are together, but we are not the same. Some wounds don't heal, they just fade into scars. I often ask myself if the moments of passion were worth a lifetime of regret. And maybe that's the question I'll leave with you. When desire collides with duty, when love and temptation tear you in opposite directions, what would you choose?